guy's going to be some senator one day.
Well,
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? That was kind of abrupt. I'm going to have to fix that. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Jesse Hughes Show. As always, I am your host, Jesse Hughes. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're following X at Jesse Hughes NC, don't forget to like this live stream, repost it, share it with your friends, tell the world that we are back. We are back. We are ready for action. We're ready for a new season of this show. I hope you have all been doing well in my absence. It's been a good summer. I'm glad to be back in beautiful Lynchburg, Virginia. It's a good time. History is something that oftentimes seems confusing. And when you're living in a time in which historical events are happening all around you at a rapid pace, it makes it hard to keep up. It used to be when history-making events happened, our media would pay apt attention to what was going on. They would fill us in. They would let us know the details of what's happening, and they would keep track of things, and they wouldn't let it slip out of the news cycle, especially if it was something of vast national importance. I mean, think of the way the media treats Super Bowl victories or Katie Ledecky breaking records at the Olympics. Think of what they did when Barack Obama was elected president. The first black president in history. They still talk about it. They always talked about how Kamala Harris was the first Indian American woman to become a senator, until she became the first black woman to become vice president. Then that kind of slipped out of the way. Isn't that interesting? But now we live in a time where news cycles go rapidly. It used to be when there was a mass national or even international event that needed our attention, the media was all on top of it. The Cuban Missile Crisis, for example. They paid close attention day and night, detailed explanations, unbiased, of what was going on and how President Kennedy was handling it. Even more so when it comes to assassinations and assassination attempts on current or former presidents, the media's usually all over it. Look at the way they covered the Reagan assassination attempt. Even more recently, look at the way that they covered when a man shot several bullets at the White House during the Obama administration and then wasn't found for several days. Secret Service didn't even know that bullets were shot. It's interesting how they paid so much attention to those events, but when President Donald Trump was giving a speech on July 13th of this year, and an assassin attempted to take his life, all of a sudden, it's not in the news. They want you to forget about it. Where is the coverage of the assassination attempt? Where are the details of the investigation that the FBI is supposed to be doing? Where is the Secret Service director who, I mean, she's already resigned, she's already out, but why are we not still bringing her in for more House subpoenas, more questions, more hearings? Why are we so in the dark on the Trump assassination attempt? Why is this not still major news? Why is it not something that people on both sides of the political aisle are still asking, where is the information on this? We all saw it happen live. We all saw the videos, the pictures, the famous video of him and the picture of him with his fist in the air. We all saw it. It happened. We didn't just make it up. It happened. But even as it was happening, the mainstream media tried to gaslight you into not believing your own lying eyes. But your eyes weren't lying to you. CNN featured a headline saying that Trump appeared to fall and get injured. Several news outlets said that there were large, loud pops like firecrackers. Despite the fact we heard the gunshots on TV, despite the fact we saw the bullet hit his ear, despite the fact we saw him reach up and grab his ear and fall to the ground and get tackled by Secret Service, and despite the fact that on some media networks they even showed a dead body of a rally goer who was unfortunately killed, murdered in cold blood at this event, despite all that, the media wanted you to believe it didn't happen. And when they couldn't get away with letting you believe it didn't happen, when they couldn't get away with that and they realized, okay, people are too tuned in, they know what happened, we can't hide it now, they simply stopped covering it. They simply wanted it to go away and for you and for me to forget about it. That's what they wanted. Why would the media continue to cover up this assassination attempt? Why aren't they demanding answers? Why aren't they demanding to know what happened? You would think in an honest country with an honest media, this would be common sense. This would be something that they would be like, of course we're supposed to do this. Of course we're supposed to report the news and tell the people, all right, this is the update on the investigation. This is the update on what the FBI has found about the shooter. This is the update on this. This is the update on that. You don't see that. They want you to believe that they don't even want you to believe anything. They want you to forget that the Trump assassination attempt happened by not even talking about it like it never even happened. This is unprecedented in American history. We have never seen before an assassination attempt covered up so blatantly by our own news media. And why would they do that? It could be that they're complicit. Now, some people have proposed theories about who was involved in the assassination attempt and how much certain people knew about it. I'm not here to get into all of those theories, but they are worth doing your own research into and seeing what you come up with. I will encourage that. But I'm not going to speculate on this show what happened, but I can tell you, even if the media didn't pay the shooter to go to this rally and shoot the front runner for the Republican nomination for president, the presumptive nominee at that point, who at that point in the polls and after became the front runner in the entire race until the current sitting president decided to drop out. I'm not saying that the media is behind the assassination attempt, but they are complicit in it, and they know it. Because for the past 8 years, we have seen time and time again where the media has portrayed Trump and Trump supporters as dangerous, as Nazis, as fascist. They've called Trump all sorts of names. They've painted him in negative light 24/7. They've riled up anger against normal Americans like you and me who just happen to like the guy. For 8 years, we've watched this happen. For 4 years after he was elected, constantly, Hillary Clinton complained that it was an illegitimate election. It was Russian collusion. The Democrats said that he was an illegitimate president. They put out this claim of Russian interference in our elections in order to delegitimize the presidency of Donald Trump. But when Trump lost in 2020, and he started asking questions, all of a sudden him and his supporters are threats to democracy. Now, I don't know about you, and I don't know about these media types, but to me, personally, it seems pretty obvious that if you're going to go 8 years demonizing a man, calling him the worst names imaginable, calling him a threat to democracy. At some point, somebody is going to say, if he is a threat to democracy, I'm going to be the one to take him out. Now, there are still questions as to who funded this kid, how he got to the rally in the first place, what the heck the Secret Service was doing. But the main point of this is that the media knows that they are complicit in this assassination attempt, because even if this kid somehow did act alone, which we don't know because we still don't know the results of the investigation that's supposedly being held by the FBI, even if this kid did act alone, he was riled on and encouraged by our American mainstream media, who call people like you and me fascist threats to democracy every single day. He was riled on by that media to go and try and kill a president. It's simple. And so the media knows that they caused it. And in some cases, they even kind of admitted it, talking about how we need to tone back the rhetoric in this country, cool the temperature. And then what did they do? Did they faithfully investigate? Did they stop painting us like demons? No. They buried the story, and then they went back to their old ways, because that's all they know. That's how they get their money. If the media in this country was honest, we would have known every detail of this investigation. It would still be in the news, and at least we would know that they're trying to do their jobs. And we would know if the FBI was trying to do their jobs, which I can tell you, I can guarantee you, they're not. Why is that? Some people have proposed some theories. I'm not here to speculate. I'm just telling you to go do your own research. This instance strikes resemblance. It bears a striking resemblance to me to what happened in 2015 in Las Vegas. We have a ton of questions about this guy who got a ton of guns and ammunition into this hotel building and then shot a ton of people on the ground. Multiple witnesses say that they heard multiple shooters, but they only found the one guy already dead in his hotel room. And it's 2024, it's almost 10 years later, and we still don't know a single thing about what happened that night in Las Vegas. No investigation details, no motive. We don't know anything. They have not told us anything. And it's weird how within the span of 10 years, there have been two major events, probably more, that I don't know about because the media won't talk about it. But there's been at least, if not more, two major events where someone has tried to cause mass carnage, in one case succeeding, and the media runs with it for a few days until they know that they can get away with not listening anymore. The media knows if this story was still in the news, Trump would win in a landslide. I think that's also one of their biggest problems. They know that they're complicit, and they know that it would cause Trump to win in a landslide because they know the people who are in this country, they value heroism and courage, and they saw a president, a former president, and a current contender for the presidency under fire, being shot at, showing brave resilience and courage, standing with his fist raised high in defiance to the shooter, telling his supporters to fight on. They know that's the kind of story that would win Donald Trump the election, and they don't want that. They want their darling sweetheart, Indian American black, I don't know what she is, woman, Kamala Harris, in the White House to do probably the exact same thing she's been doing for the last 4 years. Nothing. She's been doing nothing. Please point me to one thing that she has done. She keeps talking on the campaign trail about all these great ideas that she has and then doesn't go into detail on them. And then talks about how she has a plan that she won't share to make all of this stuff so much better. You could have been doing it for the last 4 years. Where have you been? Where have you been? You're the vice president of the United States of America. Sure, the office has little power, but you still can have an influence on policy. But you and your boss, Joe Biden, Scranton Joe, Sleepy Joe Biden, have been sitting in the White House while Joe's been on the beach, doing absolutely nothing to help the people in this country. Please explain to me how you are going to help us when you have been doing nothing for the last 4 years. Please, someone explain, because I do not understand. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. But they know that the American people are not dumb. They can see what's going on, and they can see that this woman's a fraud. And if they were still reporting on the assassination attempt, Donald Trump would win in a landslide. We cannot let people forget that this happened. It seems like the majority of America has already forgot that a few months ago they watched a president get shot. What is this insanity? How can you sit there and say, oh, I don't remember that happening? It was the biggest news in the world. It was a groundbreaking historical event. The media should still be covering it. We need to keep talking about it. I don't understand how anyone can go a single day without even wondering, wait, didn't Trump get shot? What happened with that? We don't know, because the media is not reporting a thing, and the FBI is supposedly doing their job, but we don't know what they're doing. Are they investigating? Are they just saying that they're investigating? Are they doing anything? Do you know? Do I know? I don't know. Someone help me understand what's going on here, because I can't see it. I just can't see it. We cannot let that memory slip from the American consciousness, because it's already starting to. But we remember on July 14th, 2024, just after 6 o'clock p.m., a shot rang out, and thankfully only scraped the ear, but still hit a sitting president of the United States of America. And we, since then, have not heard a single thing about it, because they know if this story was still in the headlines in a few months in November, Donald J. Trump wins in a landslide and gets to cast his vision on America to make America great again. We can't let people forget. We have to remind people every single day, this was something that happened. Don't you remember seeing it? Don't you forget about it, especially when you go to the ballot box. Transitioning over on the topic of vision, because I just mentioned Trump's vision to save America. A few months ago, I made a striking observation about the state of the conservative movement. Overall, the state of the conservative movement is one that is largely without any kind of vision. We don't have a vision for America. We don't have a message to sell to the future of this country. We don't have anything like that. And so a few months ago, you may remember, I sat down, I wrote out a 10-point vision for American renewal. I posted it. I made a video about it. And I'm bringing it back because I think it's important to keep talking about and keep sharing. These are 10 things that I believe if we focus on as a movement and we sell to the American people and we build policy ideas around, we will have great success in this country, great success in elections, and we'll be able to turn this ship around, because right now, America is heading in a dark direction. Our future right now seems dim. We don't have that bright of a future to look towards and to sell to our kids, to share with our kids, to share with our grandkids. Things are kind of dark right now. So that's why we need a vision for hope and optimism. And I think that these 10 points that I have right here are something we can give the American people to say, this is a message of hope that we are giving to you that we believe will turn this country around and make it a great place again. Number one, reclaiming our national identity. There is no identity, American identity, in the year 2024. There is nothing that currently binds all Americans together as one nation. This is unsustainable. No nation can survive without an identity that its citizens can connect with, hope in, and rally behind. What is our national identity? What was it historically? Ultimately, it was connected to some of the other points that I wrote out in this list. But the main foundation of it was the fact that the United States was a nation founded on the ideals that were drawn from, I'm getting ready to be called a Christian nationalist, the Holy Bible. It's undisputable. The ideas that built this country were drawn from the Bible. It was founded as one nation under God. Americans understood this since our nation's founding. Our founding fathers and our founding documents and our founding principles were inspired by Protestant Christian belief. You don't believe me? Let's take one source of law. Let's look at an area of law, common law. You hear the term common law all the time. It refers to laws that aren't necessarily written down, but they're understood principles and rules of law that we are bound to when we follow. A lot of times it's used in the civil code. Think of something like torts and assault. You can be sued for assault as a common law suit. And what is the source of common law? William Blackstone, the English jurist, said that the source of common law was the law of nature and of nature's God as revealed in the Holy Scriptures. And our founding fathers quoted Blackstone frequently. Our Supreme Court justices throughout the generations quoted Blackstone frequently. Even today, American jurists are inspired by Blackstone. This was the foundation of our country, the Bible. America had a Christian founding. It was inspired by Christian ideals, and we have to reclaim that. We have to restore our communities. Communities throughout the nation are in disarray. We have no communal bonds anymore. The small town virtues of the past are gone. This needs to be reversed. Individualism is a founding principle of this country, but throughout American history, everyone understood that individuals need a community for support. You can't just go out and live on your own, out in the wilderness. I mean, theoretically you can, and that does sound nice sometimes, but for the most part, God created humans to be communal creatures. We're supposed to have community with one another. When God made Adam, he said, it is not good for man to be alone, and so he created Eve and created the institution of the family. And a bunch of families that are in the same area create a community. We're supposed to have community with one another. Neighbors, church members, and townspeople all across the nation used to look out for one another, used to help provide for one another's needs. Hey, my neighbor has a medical bill that he is struggling to pay. I'm going to help give him a little bit of money so that when he gets back on his feet, he doesn't have to pay me back, but if he does, that's great. But I need to help this guy out because I would expect him to help me. We don't have that anymore. When communities were unified, crime was lower, people were happier, and prosperity followed. This is not the case today. Our society is more lonely than ever before. Crime is rampant. Our children have no community heroes to look up to. The only community we have is online through platforms like X, which are great, don't get me wrong. I can't believe I just called it X, Twitter. Platforms like Twitter, which are great, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough. It's not enough to just have a community of friends online. You need real, in-person friends, actual people to hang out with. We need to restore the communities throughout our nation. Point number 3, we need to restore families. The family is the foundational unit for all of society. It was the first human institution that God formed. God formed the family, God formed the government, and God formed the church. Family, civil government, church. 3 governing institutions over which men can govern themselves with guidance by God, but the family was the first and the most important of them. And because of that, there's no wonder it has been the most attacked institution by the left today. The family should be supported by the nation, not torn down. Welfare policies that discourage marriage should be abandoned. No fault divorce should be abolished. Policies should be enacted that promote getting married young, I would even argue, staying together, and having children. We should have an economy that makes it possible for families to not only survive, but to thrive, even on a single income. This also means rejecting the LGBTQ plus ideology that damages the family and the nation. No matter what your views are on homosexuality or a host of those issues, it's clear that the LGBTQ movement is the enemy of families across this nation. It's obvious. Just look at the way that they're acting and the policies they want to institute, and how they're treating your children, by the way. This is one of the most important ways that we can preserve our national identity is by restoring families. Point number 4, leveraging power for good. One of the foundational principles of the American system of government is that the federal government has limited power. Think about what you learned in civics: checks and balances, separation of powers. These are all things that were put in place to put a check on the government so that one person or one group of people could not gain unlimited control. Sound familiar? Do you see any of that today? Separation of powers is also an inherently Christian idea. I mean, Adams himself said, or no, Madison, my bad. Madison himself said in the Federalist Papers that if men were angels, no government would be necessary, but that because we're not angels, because we are sinful creatures who have fallen short of the glory of God, we need checks on us so we don't accumulate unlimited power, because what's the saying? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This should remain to be the case, that we have limited power, but we cannot be afraid to use the powers government does have. Too often conservatives confuse the idea of limited government with small government, mainly because of libertarian influence. The American Constitution sets up a limited government, but that does not mean that it is necessarily a small government. There are powers within the Constitution for the federal government to be able to use, and for the state governments to be able to use, that they should be using to their fullest extent to promote good things. Romans 13 says that government was given by God for our good, that its purpose is to promote what is good and to punish and dissuade what is evil. Simple. The left has been leveraging government power for decades and using it for evil. We gotta claw the power back. We gotta return it to its proper bounds and use the power that is afforded to its fullest extent for the purpose of promoting good in this nation. Too often, a lot of American conservatives say, oh, I just want to be left alone. I don't want anybody to bother me. As great as that would be, and I would love that to be the case, you can't just be left alone when the other side wants to murder you and your family. We've got to use power, government power, not unlimited power, limited. We got to limit it, but we got to use what we have to the fullest extent to keep the maniacs from killing you and to promote what is good in society. Point number 5, working for the common man. The common man is the backbone of the nation and a foundational part of strong families. Plumbers, carpenters, electricians, welders, miners, farmers, truckers, soldiers, and those like them are the reason that we are able to eat, sleep, work, and live peacefully from day to day. Our economy and our society should work for the common man, not against him. Obviously, lawyers, doctors, these larger institutional white-collar jobs, those are important too. But we gotta work for the common people. Because where are you, Mr. Lawyer, gonna get your food if there's no farmers? Where are you, Mr. bank executive going to get the electricity to run your bank if the miners are all gone and there's nothing to create energy? How are you going to get supplies if there's no truckers taking shiploads and truckloads of stuff across the country? We got to work for the common man. Number 6, securing our national sovereignty. It's no secret that our border is a mess right now, no thanks to our current border czar in chief. We must secure and lock down the border and deport every single criminal alien that is on American soil right now. Every single one. You've got to go back. You have about 6 months left, and then hopefully, under a new administration, you're getting sent back. You've got to go back. I'm sorry. We must increase restrictions on immigration, and we got to rework the system so that only the best and brightest who love our land and are willing to assimilate to our culture are able to enter our country. Number 7, reclaiming our institutions. Paging redeemed Zoomer. Where you at, bro? Every major institution in the United States, from the universities to the media to the mainline church, have been captured by the left. We got to take them back. It took 50 years for the left to take control. It might take 50 years for us to reclaim them. But if the nation is to survive, it's a battle we must fight and we must win. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not in favor of alternative institutions. I go to one. I'm a student at Liberty University, a school that was founded to get students away from these secular leftist colleges. I love Moscow, Doug Wilson. I love Ogden. I love all of these alternate communities that are rising up and trying to build alternate institutions to fight back against the left. And these communities could end up being the mainline institutions one day, but they could also just end up being means to an end. No matter what, there are institutions, whether it be education, religion, whatever, that whether it's through building alternatives that hopefully grow or fighting back to retake that has been lost, we have to reclaim institutions and we have to reclaim institutional power. Number 8, protecting life at all levels. Life is a precious gift. We must recognize that all people are created in the image of God and that they are given by God certain unalienable rights, including the right to life. We must stand firmly and boldly against abortion, euthanasia, and other practices that degrade the value of human life and be prepared to present a clear and concise message to the American people on why these things are wrong. We're losing the battle on abortion right now, big time. And much of the right is not helping our case. But here's the thing. We all know, whether you claim to be pro-choice or not, deep in your heart, deep in your soul, you know it's wrong. You know it's murder. We've got to be willing to speak clearly and concisely on this issue and explain to people this is wrong. It can't be allowed. And lastly, point number 10, building an inheritance for our children. For far too long, many policies and laws have been aimed at satisfying immediate needs and providing instant gratification. Something we all struggle with is the need for instant gratification, right? This is unsustainable for a nation's future. We must focus on providing for our current needs, but we also must work to build an inheritance for our children and for future citizens of this nation. If we get policies in place that make things great for the next 4 years and we're all hunky-dory happy, that's cool and all, but what's that going to do to preserve the nation for the next generation and the generations to come? We have got to do better. Focusing on today to the detriment of tomorrow is bad politics. We must be able to leave something for the future generations to build off of. This 10-point vision for American renewal is meant to be a rallying cry and a bedrock for conservative policy going forward. This is our foundation. It's time to build from it. We can't just sit by and let this become another theoretical vision that falls to the wayside. It is time to act and to act swiftly. This vision is not meant to be the end of the conversation. This is the beginning. The next step is to strategize how we present the vision, how we message it, and how we organize our movement around it, and ultimately how we implement it. But in order to do that, we actually have to be willing to go all in on this. I'm just a simple YouTuber who's a little active on Twitter. I'm just a simple law student. We need to get this vision out in front of the people that matter and get it to the people so that they can hear it. We got to get in the rooms where the conversations are happening so that we can put this out and tell people this is our vision, this is our hope for the future, and we think it's a whole heck of a lot better than what they're doing over there. All right, for our last segment tonight, if you're new here, you might have saw at the beginning on the heading that the Jesse Hughes Show is a podcast about politics, sports, and theology. And nothing gets me going quite like college football. So now we're moving into the sports. We are going to look at some of the games coming up this weekend. I've got live stats right now. Oh, there's a game actually going on right now. I did not even realize that. There's two games actually. Western Illinois at Indiana and BYU at SMU. BYU's leading that game. I was not surprised by. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. I know that SMU was a 7-point favorite in that game. I don't know what the line on Indiana and Western Illinois is, but right now Indiana is smoking Western Illinois 21-0. That's pretty bad. We've got some crazy games coming up this weekend. I'm going to look at a couple, just highlight a couple that I think are going to be interesting, highlight a couple that I'm going to be watching. I don't know if I'm going to be watching this game, but Arkansas at Oklahoma State. It should be a pretty interesting game. Right now, Oklahoma State's a 9.5-point favorite. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I think I would take Arkansas plus 9.5 to cover the spread. I don't think Arkansas can win that game, but they might be good enough to hold it close. Tomorrow at 12, Texas at Michigan. Michigan, coming off a national championship, is not exactly the same team that they were when they went into that national championship. This will be a rematch of the playoff. No, actually, no, it won't. Michigan played Alabama, and Texas played Washington. Ignore that. I'll cut that in post. This will be a pretty interesting game to watch, especially because Michigan has lost a lot of key pieces. They lost their head coach to the NFL. Jim Harbaugh is now out in Los Angeles hanging out. And Texas is basically still the same team that they were last year. They've lost a few pieces here and there. They've got some new guys on the line. But they're basically still the same team. But they're only favored 7.5 right now. Michigan is 7.5-point underdogs. I don't feel good. I wouldn't if I were trying to pick who would win this game, I would feel really good about Texas. Just based off what happened last Saturday, I don't feel great about Michigan. Michigan last Saturday, let's see. Scoring. Okay, I can't find their schedule, but Michigan last Saturday, they kind of struggled against who they were playing. It was not pretty, and I don't think it's going to be pretty this week. I've heard some people say to take Michigan to cover. I don't know about that. What else we got going on this weekend? I know Liberty will be playing. I'll get to that game in just a minute. My beautiful alma mater that I'm still a student of. South Carolina at Kentucky. That could be interesting. Kentucky are 8.5-point favorites. I don't know how I feel about that game. I'm going to leave that one alone for now. We have Florida A&M at Miami. Miami is 44.5-point favorites. They should waltz that game easily. Let's see. South Florida at Alabama. Alabama's 30.5-point favorites. Roll Tide. There were questions about whether or not Alabama would be the same team without Nick Saban. So far, it looks like they have gotten a very, very good start to the season. 63-0 against Western Kentucky last weekend. Ryan Williams, the 17-year-old wide receiver on their roster, looks like an absolute beast. He only had 2 catches, but he had 2 touchdowns and over 130 yards on those catches. The kid is 17 years old. He's a freshman, true freshman, and he had over 100 yards, about 130, 2 touchdowns. Alabama's a team to watch this year. Kalen DeBoer is going to do good at Alabama. Without Nick Saban, I think that they are a playoff contender for sure. They probably will go to the SEC championship. I'll be interested to see what happens when Georgia comes into Tuscaloosa in a couple of weeks and takes them on. But I feel good about Alabama. App State at Clemson. Now, if you follow Liberty football Twitter at all, fan Twitter, you might have seen, I saw briefly before the show, that there was some bickering and some infighting over this game right now. Some Liberty fans want App State to win because if/when Liberty beats App State, it looks better for us. App State just beat Clemson. We just beat App State. It's a win-win situation. It looks great. But I also know some Liberty fans hate App State and want Clemson to win this one. I don't know who I want to win, but Clemson are only 17-point favorites, and I would feel very confident in taking App State to cover that spread. I don't know if they'll win outright, but they ain't going to lose by 17 points. Boise State at Oregon is one to watch. Personally, I hope Boise State gets slapped into oblivion because it gives Liberty a better chance in the playoff. Okay, they don't have the Liberty game on here, but Liberty is playing New Mexico State tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And you better bet I'm staying up all night watching it. 10:30 game, I don't care. I go to a later service for church anyway. The church that I go to, it's a small church. They have a late service. I'll be fine. I am watching that game. I'm going to be tuned in. And I think that the Flames will do a very good job in handling business. They didn't look so great this past week. They won by 17, I think. But I think that Jamie Chadwell will put us on the trajectory for a way better showing this week. All right, that is all I have for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, to follow me at Jesse Hughes NC, to like this stream. It's going to stay up, so you can still share it with your friends after this ends. Let them watch the replay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this brand new episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. As I hope that you have a great night, that you have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. Watch some college football. Get to see it. Watch a little NFL too. I think college is better than NFL, but I was still watching a little bit of the Chiefs-Ravens game last night. Crazy finish, wasn't it? But thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great night. God loves you, and so do I. Thank you. God bless.